صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله وعلى آل بيتك الطيبين الطاهرين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة غريب يا مظلوم كربلاء المعزى هذه الليلة ومولاي صاحب الزمان حيث قال في زيارته فلئن أخرتني الدهور وعاقني عن نصرك المقدور ولم أكن لمن حاربك محاربا ولمن نصب لك العداوة مناصبا فلأندبنك صباحا ومساء ولأبكين عليك بدل الدموع دمع. كيف زار صاحب الزمان جده الحسين السلام على المرمل بالدماء السلام على المهتوك الخفاء السلام على خامس أصحاب الكساء السلام على الشيب الخضير السلام على الخد التريب السلام على البدن السليم السلام على الثغر المقروع بالقضيب. أعانك الله سيدي صاحب الزمان سيدي يا أبا عبد الله يا ليتنا ثم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي نفوز فوزا عظيما. سئل يا مولانا الصادق عليه السلام وكيف ينتفع الناس بالإمام الغائب بإمام غائب فأجاب الإمام كما Imam al-Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif, our 12th Imam, the Imam that all of the members of Ahlul Bayt has prepared us for, have told us about his name, told us about when will he be born, about his time, about the time that of his occultation. For we find, for example, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam would mention that from amongst my lineage there will come a man who will fill this earth with justice and fairness after it was filled with oppression and tyranny. Even further, we find in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would say that وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ نُورِثُهَا لِعِبَادِنَا الصَّالِحِينَ. So it is mentioned in the Holy Quran that it was already written in the Psalms, the book of Psalms, and the book of Torah, that the earth will be inherited towards the rightful servants. So obviously today we don't see the earth being inherited and occupied by the rightful servants. So this is a promise, a Quranic promise, that a day like this will come. Furthermore, as we mentioned, the Prophet's narration, and we find even the Imams told their companions about an Imam that will come later who will take revenge for Imam Hussain. Furthermore, they would also explain to them that the Imam will go into a major occultation, for one of Imam al-Sadiq's companions would come and ask Imam al-Sadiq. He would tell him, how will the people benefit from an Imam that is in an occultation? And Imam al-Sadiq would answer and say, the same way that they benefit from the sun when it's hidden behind the clouds. Obviously nowadays, we do benefit from the sun even if it's behind the clouds, for it benefits us through the temperature of the earth, through the gravitation and energy, so on and so forth. But one thing is that we don't really feel that warmth, the presence of the Imam, despite his occultation. Sometimes we even wonder, why are we in a time where there is no divine appointed individual? Just like how the companions of the Prophet and the companions of the Imams, they were able to see somebody who was divinely guided. Why can't we experience the same experience? Sometimes we don't really feel that benefit. So in today's lecture, I'm going to try and explain why did the Imam go into occultation, and what is the nature of this occultation. For when we know the nature of the occultation, that would be the first step for us to feel the warmth of the sun behind the clouds. We will keep using this metaphor. And finally, I will mention some of our responsibilities and how our actions can affect the occultation of the beloved Imam Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu. So inshallah I'll start the first point after the Salah ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
As for why did the Imam go into occultation? As we mentioned earlier, the Imams already knew about this event. They already told their companions that the Shia will, or the followers of Ahlul Bayt, will go through a time where their Imam will be in occultation. Now one thing is, we need to set a general rule, and we've already set it previously, that the earth, all the times, must have a divinely guided individual, appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all times. For if there is a time that exists where there is no divinely guided individual, then there will be no proof for Allah on this earth. And there is famous narration, لا تخلو الأرض من حجة. The earth will never be empty from a proof. And we mentioned also that this proof must be human in previous lectures. So there must be a proof on this earth during all times. So it will be unfair for our time not to have a divinely guided individual. Whether he is present or in occultation, the important thing is we have such an individual. Now, as for the Imams, as we established earlier, are individuals that implement the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, the Imams, obviously, if we look at their lives, none of them lived a very long life. Most of them were killed either through the sword or through poison. So, if the Imam Salamullah alayhi carried on the message and didn't go into occultation, then nothing would have changed. He would have also been killed either through the sword or through the poison. Therefore, the Imams established the idea that an Imam will go into occultation. We see that the interactions of the Imams from Imam Al-Hadi onwards, Imam Al-Hadi, then Imam Al-Askari, then Imam Al-Mahdi Al-Faraj. From Imam Al-Hadi onwards, we find that the Imam's interaction with the people is much lower than the previous Imams. They did interact with people, but not as much as the previous Imams. And even from the previous Imams, we find in the times of Imam Al-Sadiq, for example, somebody would come and ask Imam Al-Sadiq a question. The Imam would tell him, "Isn't my companion in your city?" He would refer him to one of his companions. So he would tell him, "Yeah, he is." He said, "Then go ask that companion." So even from the time of Imam Al-Sadiq, we find the Imams setting up the system in a way where the followers of the Ahlul Bayt will refer in their questions to those who are experienced in the science, in the Islamic sciences, in the Islamic knowledge. So from the time of Imam Sadiq, he would tell people to refer to those who are experts in Islamic studies. Then in Imam Al-Hadi, Imam Al-Askari, we find the interaction with the people got lower and lower. Then even when the Imam went into occultation to save his life, because we believe the Imam is the one who will implement God's plan on this earth. So to save his life, he went into occultation. Firstly, he went into a minor occultation, so that the followers of Ahlul Bayt get used to a time where they can't interact with the Imam. So in the minor occultation, the Imam would communicate with the people through ambassadors. And after the death of his fourth ambassador, the Imam went into major occultation, where there is no more direct interaction with the Imam. So this is the main reason why the Imam went into occultation, to mainly protect his life, as the narrations tell us. Another reason the narrations mention is so that no nation on the Day of Judgment comes out and say, "We didn't get the chance to rule the world. If we did so, we would have been just in our rulership." حتى لا يقول أحد لو وليت لعدلت. So no one comes and say, "If I had the authority, I would have been just." On the Day of Judgment, Allah will show all of the nations, "You had your time of ruling, you had your time of ruling, you had your time of ruling, and all of you, none of you are just." That's another reason, to be a proof upon each nation that none of you can rule in a just manner except through divine guidance, except through a divinely guided individual. So that's the second reason. The first reason, to protect the Imam's life. The second reason, so that all of the nations, none of them can say on the Day of Judgment, "We didn't get our chance of ruling. We would have ruled in a just manner." Now that this is the main main reason. What is the nature of the occultation? So that we can get to know more about the nature of the Imam's occultation. Sometimes we picture the occultation of the Imam in a way that the Imam went and hid somewhere and he never appeared until today. This is not the case. The Imam didn't go and hide somewhere and then he disappeared. No. The Imam is present. All of us may have seen the Imam at some point in our lives. We just don't know his identity. His identity is hidden. We can't figure out that this person is the Imam. But he is present, he interacts with people, and he is there to protect the message of Islam, but all in a hidden manner. So this is important. The Imam is not hiding somewhere, waiting, and not doing anything. Otherwise, it makes no sense for us in Dua al-Faraj when we say, Allahumma kun li waliyika al-Hajjat ibn al-Hasan. Later on, what do we say? Kun lahu waliyan wa hafidha. It makes no sense to say, oh Allah, be for our master al-Hajjat ibn al-Hasan, our master Imam al-Mahdi, a wali and hafidh, a guardian and a protector. If he is already hiding and not interacting with people, then he's already protected. Why am I praying for him to be protected? He is engaging with people. He is interacting with this world. His identity is hidden. This is why I pray that Allah protects him in Dua al-Faraj. Even Dua al-Faraj will make more sense now when we understand the nature of occultation. So now when we see that the Imam is actually interacting, and we ascribe to be the followers of the Imam. So one thing is the Imam is actually taking care of us. It's just we don't know exactly how. We may not realize it. At the end of the day, we can't control every factor around us. Simply the journey from home to the Hussainiyya today, so many factors could have affected that journey. We never know if the Imam played a role in avoiding any factors, and he probably could have made your way easier. Many ways the Imam could take part in our lives. We just can't figure it out. Think of it this way, the same analogy of the sun that the Imam Sadiq drew to his companion. If a city that has never seen the sun in its life, it's always cloudy, obviously they are benefiting by the sun. They just don't know what the sun is, or the concept of the sun. They've never seen the sun, or never heard about it. But they're still benefiting from it. So if you come and tell them, by the way, the weather here is warm not because of the clouds, because there is something beyond the clouds, they will tell you, maybe, we don't know. Here, we know that there is the Imam, and he is playing a role. This is why we have to try to always remember the Imam. Furthermore, as part of the Imam's occultation, it is said that the Imam actually, and this occurs with all of the Imams, not just Imam al-Mahdi sallallahu alayhi. It is said that the Imam gets to see reports of our a'mal, daily reports. So if we say that we are the followers of the Imam, and we love the Imam, and we want the Imam to reappear as soon as possible, then first of all, let's look at ourselves. Every action I do, will it make the Imam happy, or will it make the Imam sad? He's affected by the actions of every individual. And later on I will mention stories of how one individual can affect the message of Allah on earth. Because we believe the message of Allah cannot be enforced. We have to believe in it for it to be applied. And the Imam is waiting for a right amount of individuals who are ready to implement this message for him to reappear. So now we can see that in the nature of his occultation, he is the one that is waiting for us, not us waiting for him. He is waiting for a right number of companions, of individuals to support his cause, to make sure that humanity is ready for him to implement the message, for him to reappear. So every action we do could delay his reappearance or could bring it faster. So as you can see, this is how once we know the nature of the occultation, we start slowly knowing how we can feel this warmth. Because we know the Imam is present, he could help us in any moment. And if I'm sincere with my Imam through my actions and always remember him, then I know he's taking care of me. This is one point. Another point I want to explain further, the movement of the Imam, the nature of his message. Now, if we look at history, social movements can be divided into two types of movements. There is a reactive movement and there is a proactive movement. A reactive movement is the type of movement that occurs due to severe injustice, a lot of pressure, then the society breaks down, then there is a reactive movement. For example, protests or political coups. These usually happen as a reactive movement to severe injustice. There are other type of movements that are proactive. The person has a project and they are proactive in creating this project and making it on earth. An example of a proactive movement is the movement of Imam Hussain Al-Hakim. It wasn't reactive in the sense that Yazid was unjust and the Imam was reacting to Yazid's injustice and decided to throw off Yazid from the Khilafah so he can take up the Khilafah. This wasn't the reason of Imam Hussein's movement. Imam Hussein wanted to revive the conscious within us. He wanted to revive our moral measures. Religion was dead in the society. He wanted to revive that. It was a proactive movement. Similarly with the movement of Imam Al-Mahdi, his movement is also a proactive movement. It's not going to be a movement where the Imam, when he reappears, he will just kill people and throw off people off cliffs and so on. It will be a movement of building, of forming a society that is just. It's a fully proactive movement. And this is why the Imam needs individuals. He doesn't want just an army to fight with him. He wants people who think, who know their religion, so that we can apply the religious teachings and build a righteous community. As for how can our actions affect the reappearance of the Imam? There are many Quranic stories that show certain divinely guided individuals being hidden from society, and an action of one individual or other would affect the message of that person. I'll bring up one of these stories, the story of Prophet Yusuf. The story of Prophet Yusuf. We are all familiar with the story of Prophet Yusuf when Zulaykha tried to perform an indecent act with him and he pushed her away, and then when the ruler, the husband of Zulaykha, found out, Zulaykha, before she leaves the room, she tore Yusuf's clothes. So she told the ruler, her husband, that Yusuf was trying to attack me, and I tore his shirt and I left. So the ruler, Zulaykha's husband, would throw Yusuf into the prison. Now Yusuf was the prophet of his time. He was for all of the people, but he was hidden from society in the prison. So that's an example. As we say, Imam Mahdi is present, we just can't identify him. Now let's carry on the story. Prophet Yusuf still practiced his message well with his prison mates. What did he tell them? يا صاحبي أأرباب متفرقون خير من الله الواحد القهار. Oh my prison mates, multiple masters, are they better than one master that is all powerful? So he was guiding them to believe the right beliefs. They say that his prison mates got guided. Later on, when the two prison mates were leaving prison, Prophet Yusuf told one of them, you will be killed outside the prison. As for you, you will be serving the ruler of your time. So for the one who will be serving the king of his time, Yusuf told him, just tell him about me and how good and the good things that I have done. Now that prison mate who went to serve the king, when he left prison and actually served the king, he forgot to tell the king about Prophet Yusuf. This is a Quranic story. What is the consequence of him forgetting to tell the king about Prophet Yusuf? Prophet Yusuf remained in the prison for a longer period of time. So the action of one individual caused the delayance of implementing the message of a prophet of Allah, a messenger of Allah, Prophet Yusuf. Similarly, now that we saw how that one person affected the message of Prophet Yusuf, for he remained in the prison for a longer period because of that one individual, we can also affect the reappearance of our beloved Imam. One action could delay it, other action could bring it closer. So it is actually real. Even in Quranic stories we see regular people affecting the messengers of Allah and their messages. Similarly with us, every action we do will affect. This is in general a general gist of how we deal with the ghaiba or the occultation of our Imam. Now, one advice our ulama give is using this example. They say there's two types of waiting. Now that we're waiting, they say there's two types of waiting. One type is to wait actively, the other is to wait passively. Think that a guest is coming to your house. You will start arranging the house, cleaning up, cooking, and you will wait for them to come. So you've arranged everything, and now you're actively waiting because you've done everything. Another person would lay down on the sofa and call his friend, tell him 10 minutes before you arrive, just let me know. And he will wait for the phone call. The first person who prepared everything has actively waited for the guests. The second person who's laying on the sofa has passively waited for the Imam or for his guest. So similarly, us preparing ourselves through our a'mal, through our actions, through doing our responsibilities, both religious responsibilities and social responsibilities. All of these are factors that cause us to be those who actively wait for the Imam. While if we sit down and do nothing and say, let's wait for the Imam to come, he will solve it. We don't need to solve any problem in this world. This is passively waiting, we're not doing anything. So to wrap up, to think the Imam is part of my society, I just can't identify him. And that I'm sincere and actively waiting, I know for a fact the Imam will take care of me. It is then when I start feeling that warmth, that flame within me, that I'm actually waiting for you. and understand the metaphor that Imam Sadiq gave us, which is the same way that people benefit from the sun behind the clouds. Now that we mentioned the Imam Salamullah alayhi, Sallu ala Muhammad. Now that we mentioned the Imam Salamullah alayhi, and that he's present. He could be with us, he could be in a different majlis, we don't know. But what we know is he also is remembering the event of Ashura. He is remembering what happened on that day. And he is the one that we send our condolences to. I wonder what is the feeling of our Imam when he remembers what occurred on the day of Ashura. For the narrations, when we read them, we get a gist of what happened and we cry. What about the Imam of our time? How would he feel? My dear brothers and sisters, I ask you, if somebody knocked on your door and he told you I'm thirsty, whoever that person is, no matter what his religion is, no matter what his age is, what is the first thing that you will do? You will just give them water. You don't care who they are. How heartless can those enemies of Allah be to leave the Imam for 3 days without water? To leave kids for 3 days without water, thirsty, in the heat of the sun. My dear brothers and sisters, how would you feel if something heavy fell on your leg? It's painful, right? Some narrations mention that 10 people came to Ibn Ziyad after Ashura. Ibn Ziyad would tell them, who are you? They would tell Ibn Ziyad, we are the ones who were on the horses and drove over the chest of Hussain, and we made sure to crush all of the bones of Hussain, one by one. My dear brothers and sisters, I ask you, how many stabs can a human handle before they die? 1, 2, 3. Narrations mention that on the body of Hussain there were 33 stabs. Furthermore, this is only stabs, not arrows. For narrations mention there were roughly 300 arrows on the body of Hussain. And you know what? All of them on the front side, not the back. How heartless can they be? For Hussain, when he saw his infant child thirsty, he showed the child to Zainab. She said, take him to the enemies. At least let them just feed him water. He's a little child. And this is what happened. It is then Imam Hussain asked for his young infant in order to bid him farewell. After everyone his companions, his family members passed away, were martyred. Your Lady Zainab would say, Brother Hussain, he has had no water for 3 days, and his mother's milk has dried up. Imam Hussain embraced his 6-month-old child. Then he mounted his horse and approached Yazid's army. Imam Hussain cared so much for his infant, he would put him under his garment so that the heat of the sun would not reach Abdullah al-Radi. He would then hold him up and ask the enemies for some water and tell them, and if you are scared that I would drink from it, then take him, give him some water and bring him back to me. They say that the army would split into 2. Some of them would say, give him some water. The children are innocent and they have nothing to do with this. While others shouted, kill him, do not leave anyone from his household alive. They started to argue between themselves. Then Umar ibn Sa'd would turn into Harmal ibn Kahil and say, cut the argument, oh Harmala. Harmala narrates, I prepared a 3-headed arrow and looked at the infant to find the target. Then the wind came and moved the garment, and the neck of Abdullah al-Radi would appear, and it looked just like a shiny pearl. I made that my target, and I slaughtered him from the neck in the lap of his father. Imam Hussain would put his hand under the neck of his infant until it was filled with blood. He would then throw it to the sky. Imam Hussain would then return him to the tent while saying, oh Allah, if you are not to make us victorious today, then make it to be what is better than victory. He would dismount his horse and enter the tent in acceptance of Allah's decree. Sukaina could not hear the cries of her brother. She wonders what happened to her brother. So she would ask Imam Hussain, did you point the first of Abdullah? Because I can't hear him crying. Imam Hussain would then show her that her deserted brother. Imam Hussain would tell Sukaina, here is our Abdullah. Some narrations would mention that Imam Hussain went outside the tent and dug a grave with his sword and buried the infant. As the poet would say, Hussain had an infant. Hussain had an infant. He brought him that instant, asking them for water. The reply was slaughter. Only 6 months in age, Ali caused a huge rage. Confused was the enemy as his yes spare me. Imam through his blood our sacrifice sold. In tears Hussain had prayed, watching Abdullah fade. Take him from me, Zainab, wrapped الفايا. Our babies are martyr, like Muhsin of our mother. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. Ya Allah, we ask you by the status of Abdullah Radhi, Ya Allah, to accept our deeds, Ya Allah, to cure our ill ones, Ya Allah, for the souls of the marhumin, of the mu'mineen and mu'minat, and the marhumin of the ones who organized this majlis. Please recite al-Fatiha before it. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.